Well, you have to be willing to fall in love. Even if in your life you've been burned or you've been dumped, you've been singed. Happens to everybody. I've been burned so many times by the Buffalo Bills. I don't even like going into the kitchen. I don't like getting near the oven. I've been burned so many times. And they'll probably lose in mid-January to Kansas City again in the AFC Championship. It'll be like 27-24. Josh Allen will make a big mistake. He'll play well. He's Superman. He'll put on a cape and jump over linebackers with a single bound. And then Mahomes will rip your heart out. He'll have the ball last. Yeah, that'll probably happen again. I mean, what's going to change, right? Same quarterback, same coach. Clearly, Kansas City is in everybody's head in the AFC and perhaps the NFC. But this time it feels a little different. I'm willing to fall in love and get burned again. First of all, Joe Brady and Josh Allen, they're 9-1 together. No more Stephon Diggs drama. And they feel more balanced. I get all the Josh Allen horsepower, but with more efficiency, more balance, and without all the silly mistakes. I don't know. Maybe it'll be just, like what I've seen. But it does feel more balanced. It does feel more. It feels more like a complete team. And that's what Kansas City is now. They're actually defensive-led. It's not Travis Kelce and Mahomes. This kind of feels like I get the horsepower, but without the mistakes. And that feels like the outcome would be different. And maybe it's just because the AFC doesn't feel quite as powerful. The Bengals defense is just not good enough to end up in a conference championship. Chargers feel like they're probably a year away. They'll be good, but a year away. I mean, the Ravens just don't feel right. Losing at home to the Raiders. The Texans are remarkable, but they have a young quarterback and they're a young team. Buffalo's not, and Kansas City's not. And it feels like they've separated from the AFC. I'm going to put myself out there one more time. I'm willing to fall in love again. I think it's different. I'm sure almost it's absolutely different. And I looked at the schedule this morning, and I'm willing to make the commitment before the next 3 games. At Baltimore, at Houston, at the Jets. Maybe in 3 weeks I'll look up and go, okay, yeah, there's a lot of home games. Jacksonville to J-Max Point. I mean, come on, give me a break. Those guys barely care about football. But I don't know. I'm watching it, and I get all the torque. Without the turnovers, it feels different. I like them. I'm willing to have my heart ripped out in January because I'd like to see them win. I watched the Jim Kelly teams, and they were great, but there was the Cowboys. And this team is great. It feels great, but there's the Chiefs. But Sean McDermott says it's different too. Okay. Then there was the other game. For the record, not a big fan of 2 games on Monday Night Football. Thankfully, one was a blowout, so I could concentrate on the other, which was the better game. And everybody's going to talk about Jaden Daniels, but that team didn't go into a season, nor are they a championship team. Now, I did have Washington making the playoffs. They were my surprise team in the NFL. So this morning, I'm feeling pretty good about that. Yesterday, I said the Ravens were going to win 7 in a row. I was hacked yesterday. I don't know what happened there. But let me just say this. It was really about Joe Burrow last night. Not his side of the ball, but it was about the organization. He's made them relevant. But he alone can't make them champions. They're 26th in scoring defense, and that's having played New England in week 1 and a rookie quarterback in week 3. They're garbage. They got a pass rusher, but Cincinnati's always been a cheap organization, always, forever. And there's a reason why teams like the Bears and Detroit and Cincinnati have had great players. Their team Hall of Fames are amazing. But they never quite, it feels outside of those 85 Bears, it never quite feels like they're willing to step up and go all in and pay the big money, right? I mean, Jaden Daniels, and I think he's going to be terrific, averaged 11 yards of completion. He didn't look like that until last night, and I like him. But Cincinnati's a cheap franchise. They've moved off defensive players on the back end, and you saw it last night. And what does cheap mean? They have been working and moving off defensive players for 2 years. They haven't even paid Jamar Chase yet. They haven't paid T. Higgins big money yet. The Joe Burrow contract really hasn't officially gotten ugly and kicked in yet. And they're already moving off defensive players. They're cheap. I'm sorry, they are. And great players win games. Great organizations sustain success. I mean, we can talk about Mahomes all you want. That offense isn't very good right now, and Mahomes isn't great. But the GM, Brett Veach, they hit on so many of their draft picks. I mean, defensively, they just keep hitting on guy after guy after guy. The coach, Andy Reid, wins those close games with a clever, game-changing call at the end situationally. Like, you can't just pass that off as, hey, it's Mahomes. No, that's not it. Tom Brady, from Ernie Adams to Dante Scarnecchia to moving off Wes Welker and finding a quarterback from Kent State, and 3 years later, Julian Edelman looks like a better version of Wes Welker. I mean, you can't pass that off. Yeah, Tom won a Super Bowl in Tampa, but that thing unraveled pretty quickly, right? Because that's what organizations like Cincinnati do. And again, Burrow has made them relevant, at times spectacular. There's no question about that. I am not denying that. He's made them viable. But players win games. Organizations eventually win championships. It is not a coincidence that Brady and Mahomes had the best coach in their era and strong player development. New England went sideways at the end when Bill Belichick thought, I can be GM and coach. Andy Reid doesn't do that. That's why they continue to draft so well. So I look at this game and you go, oh, Jaden Daniels. I'll get to Jaden Daniels after the break. And I've said before is I liked him. I thought he was going to be a hit. I thought Washington was going to be a playoff team. I think Cliff Kingsbury was a tremendous hire. It's amazing how many of these coordinator hires, like when Nick Saban went and got Lane Kiffin, people scratch their head at, or Cliff Kingsbury failed in Arizona. Why would you hire him? Some guys are just coordinators, and they're great coordinators, and some guys can be great head coaches, so Washington's going to work. I think Washington has a chance in this division right now. I like him more than Dallas today. I really do, and I like him more than the Giants. I don't like him as much as Philadelphia, but I think they can make the wild card. But this, to me, watching the game was about Joe Burrow. He's done everything. He's made him viable. He's made him interesting. He got him to a Super Bowl. But they have been terrified for 2 years. They just keep moving off defensive players. They're not even paying Jamar Chase yet. And they're already moving off the back end of their defense. And they're 0-3. You don't have to be great defensively to get to a Super Bowl. You don't. You can't be what Cincinnati is. You know? Moving off defensive player years ago, Jesse Bates, guys like that, Von Bell, they're moving off guys. They keep one pass rusher. They're moving off guys. They want to make sure they got room. This is why Cincinnati didn't have a big trophy room. You're all in or you're not. When you get a Burrow, you go all in. If you got to pay more as an owner, you just do whatever you got to do and pay whatever you got to pay. Go look at Carson Palmer in his prime. Did the same thing. Carson Palmer and he was great. Burrow and Palmer were great NFL quarterbacks. Made the organization viable. But in the end, Carson didn't have an organization that would go all in. Wouldn't even consider a practice schedule, a practice facility. Steelers could have one, and Ravens have money. And, it's just, at some point, a quarterback has limitations. As great as they are, they all have limitations. Organizations sustain success. The star player, even a quarterback, makes you viable.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.